My dad didn't say the word inheritance when he invited me to the family meeting. He said, "We all need to sit down and talk like adults about the future." He said, "It's just some paperwork about the house and taxes. Nothing dramatic." He said, "You'll be here, right, kiddo? This affects all of us." What he didn't say was that he'd already printed the papers that would transfer everything my grandmother had left to me, her house, her savings, her last attempt to protect me from him, straight into his name. What he didn't say was that my stepmother and brother would be there too, ready to smile, and tell me it was only fair to sign. What he didn't expect was that I'd already spoken to a lawyer. My name is Olivia Reed. I was 27 years old when my dad tried to trick me into signing away my inheritance. By the time that family meeting ended, the only thing I'd signed was a decision to stop playing the role he'd written for me, the family meeting. The text came on a Wednesday afternoon while I was at my desk at the community college where I work as an academic advisor. Dad, family meeting Sunday, 3 p.m. at my place. Stuff about grandma's house and taxes. Need everyone there. Everyone meant. Dad, Mark Reed, 53, blue collar, big personality, bigger temper. My stepmother, Janice, 49, queen of passive-aggressive politeness. My older brother, Ryan, 29, charming, flaky, between jobs. Me, the kid who moved out at 19 and never once asked to move back in. I stared at the text. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. For a second, the old instinct kicked in. Don't cause trouble. Just go. Smile. Keep the peace. Then the rational part of my brain, built on student loan statements, nights in tiny apartments, and the memory of my grandmother's last hospital bed, raised an eyebrow. Family meetings in my childhood hadn't been about everyone's future. They'd been about Dad's next plan. The next way he was going to fix everything with someone else's money. I typed back anyway. Me, what exactly is this about? 3 dots. He replied, Dad, not doing this over text. Need to explain in person. It's about making sure nobody gets screwed over. My jaw tightened. Translation. I've already decided what I want, and I'm going to count on your guilt to get it. Old me might have shrugged and gone along. New me remembered the conversation I'd had 2 months earlier in a lawyer's office. I took a breath. Me, I can come. Only staying an hour. I have class prep. That was true. I was starting a graduate program part-time. It was also code for, I'm not letting this drag on until you wear me down. He sent a thumbs-up emoji. Then another text I almost missed. Dad, bring that folder from the bank Grandma gave you. We'll need it. My stomach dropped. There it was. The word he hadn't typed, but I saw anyway. Inheritance. 2. What Grandma left and why. My grandmother, Eleanor Reed, was the kind of woman who put labels on her Tupperware and hid cash in coffee tins. She'd grown up during the tail end of the Great Depression and never quite shook the habit of saving everything, food, receipts, apologies. When my mom left, packed a bag when I was 9 and slipped out one night while Dad was at the bar, Grandma moved in. You kids need someone in the house who doesn't explode every time the bills come, she'd said. She took the small room off the kitchen. She kept the fridge full. She made sure the electric bill got paid before Dad raided her purse for gas money. She also watched. She saw the way Dad treated me versus Ryan. Ryan, the golden oldest, who just had a wild streak when he stole from her wallet. Ryan, whose speeding tickets were boys will be boys. Ryan, who got a used truck for his 17th birthday, because a man needs his wheels. Me, the girl who got told, you're tougher than your brother, live, you don't need as much. Me, who was handed the mop instead of keys. When I was 16, my guidance counselor mentioned college. Dad scoffed. You don't need college, he'd said. You're good with people. You'll be fine with a steady job. schools for people who can't hack real work. Grandma pulled me aside later. You want to go? She'd asked. I nodded. I don't even know how I'd pay for it. I'd said. She'd looked at me a long moment. Let me worry about that. She'd said. I didn't know then that she'd been quietly putting aside money for years. From her widow's pension, from the odd jobs she did sewing and babysitting, from every time she cashed a birthday check and slipped half into an envelope marked for Live Future. When she got sick, lung cancer that ate her up from the inside, she called me to her room and handed me a manila folder. On the tab, in her careful handwriting, Olivia, important. Don't open it until I'm gone, she'd said, and don't let your father touch it. Grandma, I'd started, tears already spilling. No, she'd said, listen to me. Your dad's not a bad man, but he thinks money is a fire that has to be put out with more money. He'll burn through yours to keep warm. I'm giving you a fire he can't reach. What is it? I'd asked. A house, she'd said simply, and a little something in the bank. When I die, the old place, this place, and what I've managed to save go to you and you alone. Not because I love Ryan less, because I know who needs a stable floor to stand on and who will jump off at the first chance he gets. I'd cried. I promised. 3 weeks later, she was gone. Dad mourned loudly. Ryan moved back in for a while, saying he'd help take care of the place. Mostly he took care of sleeping until noon and driving Grandma's car like it had never belonged to anyone else. We met with a lawyer. Grandma's will was simple. Her small savings account, about $60,000, to me, held in trust until I was 25 at the house. To me, with Dad allowed to live in it as long as he wanted, provided he paid utilities and taxes. A small life insurance policy split between Ryan and my Aunt Miriam. Dad was surprised. What about me? He'd asked. The lawyer had cleared his throat. Your mother left you the furniture, he'd said, and certain personal items. She said she'd already helped you plenty when you were younger. Specifically, something about bailing you out of enough screw UPS to last 3 lifetimes. I tried not to smile at that. Dad had gone red, then laughed it off. She always did have a way with words. He'd said, fine, whatever, we'll figure it out. After that, things had been tense. He'd made comments. You're lucky, he'd say. Most 20-year-olds don't own a house. I don't own it yet. I'd remind him. You live in it. I'm just the future landlord, I guess. He'd snorted. Landlord, he'd muttered. My own daughter. I tried to help. I paid what I could toward repairs. I didn't charge him rent. We made an unwritten deal. He kept the place in decent shape. I didn't rock the boat. Then I moved out at 19 for college. Then got a job. Then my own apartment. Then, 1 year before the family meeting text, Grandma's trust funds had reached their release date, my 25th birthday. Ms. Patel, Grandma's lawyer, had met me at her office and slid the now-grown account statement across the desk. Invested properly, the $60,000 had become $92,000. Your grandmother was conservative, Ms. Patel had said. No crazy risks. But even so, time does its thing. What do I do with it? I'd asked, overwhelmed. Whatever you want, she'd said. That was her point. I'd suggest keeping a good chunk in reserve, a down payment if you ever want to buy something else, an emergency fund. You can also use some to upgrade the house when your father eventually decides to move or passes. But legally, it's yours now. No one else has claim. I'd nodded, mind spinning. I left most of it where it was. My life was okay. Not great. Not glamorous. Okay. I worked. Paid my student loans. Saved what I could. Visited Dad occasionally. Ryan floated in and out, sometimes sober, sometimes not. He saw me as the boring sister, the one with spreadsheet brain, the one who would die of stress before 30. He rarely acknowledged that my stress was often about mopping up things he'd spilled. Knowing all that, you might think I'd have seen the family meeting ambush coming a mile away. In a way, I did. That's why I went in with my own manila folder and a very different set of papers. 3. Before the meeting, my own lawyer. 2 days before the family meeting, I sat in Ms. Patel's office again. She'd been my grandmother's lawyer. She'd become mine by default. What are the odds this is really about taxes? I asked her. She smiled faintly. Given your father's history, she said. Lo. I sighed. I don't want to assume the worst, I said, but the text about bringing the bank folder is a red flag, she said, especially since I know your grandmother left very clear instructions giving you sole ownership of the cash and future ownership of the house. She pulled Grandma's will from her file cabinet and tapped the relevant clause. I hereby give, devise, and bequeath my real property located at 14 Maple Lane, together with all appurtenances thereon, to my granddaughter, Olivia Reed, subject to a life estate in favor of my son, Mark Reed, so that he may reside there for the duration of his natural life. Your father has the right to live there, she said. He does not have the right to sell, mortgage, or transfer ownership without your consent. If his taxes become delinquent, the county could place a lien, but that's separate. As for the cash, she nodded at the account statement in front of me. All yours, she said. No strings. No family share. Ryan thinks otherwise, I said. So does Aunt Miriam. They've both made snide comments about me being the rich one now. Have they asked you directly for money? She asked. Ryan, yes, I said, multiple times. I helped a couple of times, small amounts. Then I realized I was basically just underwriting his hangovers and told him no. We haven't spoken much since. And your father? She asked. He's danced around it, I said, talking about how hard it is to maintain an old house on one income. How unfair it is that Grandma didn't leave him more. How if we all pulled together, we could make things easier. Ms. Patel nodded. My guess, she said, is that this family meeting is an attempt to redefine all pulling together as you sign here and relinquish your inheritance in the name of family harmony. I laughed bitter. Probably, I said. So she continued, this is what you do. She laid it out like a checklist. Do not bring original documents to the meeting. Only copies. Do not sign anything without taking it away. And reviewing with her first. Do not agree verbally to think about it. If that's code for we'll keep nagging you until you crack. Stay calm. Expect guilt. Expect tears. Expect anger. And if they threaten to cut me off. I asked. She tilted her head. From what? She asked gently. You already support yourself. They can withhold emotional support. That's their choice. But they can't legally take from you what your grandmother gave. That was the heart of it. I wasn't there for their money. I was there for something messier, the version of family that didn't come with itemized receipts. You're allowed to say no, she added, without explanation. No is a full sentence. But if you want to explain, you can blame me. My lawyer says it would be irresponsible. I don't mind playing the villain. I smiled. Thank you, I said, for being willing to be hated on my behalf. She shrugged. It's in the job description, she said. When I left her office, I stopped by the bank and got copies of my account statements. I made a copy of Grandma's will clause about the house. I put them in a plain folder, the original manila one. The one Grandma had given me with important in block letters stayed in my safe. Let them think I was walking in unarmed. I'd been underestimated before. That was their mistake. 4. The trap. Dad's house smelled like roasted chicken and cheap air freshener when I walked in on Sunday. Sandra greeted me at the door with an air kiss. Hi, sweetie, she said. You look so professional. I was wearing my work slacks and a white blouse. Uniform for being taken seriously. I handed her a pie. Brought dessert. I said, always the thoughtful one. She cooed. In the living room, Dad sat in his recliner. Ryan sprawled on the couch with his feet on the coffee table, scrolling his phone. My Aunt Miriam perched in an armchair, lips pursed. About time, Ryan said when he saw me. We thought you'd chickened out. Of what? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Facing reality, he said with a smirk. Dad shot him a look. Knock it off, he said. Liv, glad you're here. Grab a seat. We'll eat after we talk. I figured it's better to do business on an empty stomach. I sat on the love seat, folder on my lap. He cleared his throat. I wanted us all here because things are changing, he began. The house, Grandma's place, the money. I didn't want anyone thinking decisions were being made behind their backs. My aunt sniffed. Decisions have been made behind people's backs, she said. Marie got more than either of us, she added, nodding at me. That was your mother's doing. Dad ignored her. As you know, he continued. Lore, he caught himself. Liv got the bulk of your grandmother's estate. Because she left it to me, I said, on purpose. He smiled tightly. Right, he said, but she couldn't have known how things would shake out. Prices, taxes, health care. The way I see it, the house is for all of us. You grew up here. So did Ryan. So did I. It's wrong for one person to hoard it while the rest of us struggle. That's not hoarding, I said. That's following a will. We're not contesting the will, Aunt Miriam said quickly, though her tone said she'd thought about it. We just think it's decent to revisit things when circumstances change. Dad nodded. Exactly, he said. The bills on this place are eating me alive. Roof, furnace, taxes. I'm drowning. Meanwhile, you have almost $100,000 just sitting in some fund. Ryan whistled. Damn, sis, he said. Didn't know it was that much. My hand tightened on the folder. Not that it's any of your business, I said, but it's less than that now, and it's not sitting. It's my emergency fund and future security. I rent. I don't have a house. This house is supposed to be that. Eventually. Dad spread his hands. And I want that for you, he said. Someday. But if we don't act now, there won't be a house to inherit. The bank will take it, or the county will. I've spoken to a guy. Of course he had. And he says if we put the deed in my name, I can refinance, get a better rate, maybe even pull some equity to pay off these loans and still lower the monthly. Everybody wins. Except me, I said. The person you need to sign that deed over. Silence. Sandra shifted uncomfortably. Honey, your father has done everything for this place, she said. He's the one who stayed. He deserves some security too, doesn't he? He has security, I said. A lifetime right to live here. Grandma made sure of that. Paper rights mean nothing if the bank comes knocking. Dad snapped. You think a lien holder cares about your grandmother's sentiment? They'll boot me out and slap an auction sign on the yard. That sucks, Ryan said. Seriously, but that's why the house needs to be in Dad's name. He's the homeowner, the man of the house, not some kid across town. And then what? I asked. He gets a line of credit against the house, pays off the fines, maybe helps you catch up on your rent. And in 3 years we're back here, except now the house is upside down, and the bank really does take it. And we all walk away with nothing? Dad glared. You think I'm that irresponsible, he said. I held his gaze. I think your past behavior predicts your future choices. I said. He flushed. This isn't an interrogation, Aunt Miriam cut in. We're trying to find a solution. Dad reached behind him and grabbed a sheaf of papers from the side table. I had my buddy draw these up, he said. Simple stuff. You sign. We file. We fix this. I promise you, Liv, I'm not trying to screw you. We'll put it in writing that you get the house back in my will. You'll still inherit. This is just paperwork. He slid the stack across the coffee table. I let it sit. What kind of paperwork? I asked. Deed transfer, he said, and some bank forms. They said it would be easier if you just sign everything now, so we don't have to keep coming back to you with piecemeal requests. Red flags waved like a marching band. I'm not signing anything today, I said. His mouth tightened. You haven't even read it, he said. I don't need to read it to know that my answer right now is no. I replied, if you want me to consider any change to the way Grandma set this up, I will take the documents to my lawyer, review them, and get back to you. I am not, under any circumstances, signing my rights away in your living room today. Ryan scoffed. Lawyer, he said. Listen to you. Dad's eyes narrowed. You brought a lawyer into family business, he demanded. You brought a mortgage broker, I said. Seems fair. Sandra frowned. Olivia, honey, this is about trust, she said. Do you really think your dad would cheat you? I looked at the papers, at his anxious frown, at Ryan's once again outstretched hand, at Aunt Miriam's tight mouth. Yes, I said quietly. I do. The room went still. How dare you, Dad began. How dare you, I cut in, heat finally rising. You didn't invite me here to talk about the future. You invited me here to pressure me into signing away the only safety my grandmother managed to carve out for me in a family that has always treated my stability as theirs to spend. You're being dramatic, Aunt Miriam muttered. Am I? I asked, voice calm now. Let's look at facts. I opened my folder and pulled out a page. This is Grandma's will, I said, reading. She left this house to me, subject to my father's life estate. That means she trusted me to protect it for the long term. Not Ryan. Not you, Aunt Miriam. Not Dad. Me. I laid out another page. This is the tax bill, I continued. $3, $800. Annual. Dad has had 12 months to plan for it. Another. This is the bank statement showing cash withdrawals the past 6 months, I said. Over $5,000 at ATMs and casinos. Dad's face reddened. You went through my statements, he said, outraged. You left them open on the table last time I was here, I said. You don't hide as well as you think. Ryan shifted guiltily. You're not perfect either, he muttered. No, I agreed. I'm not. But I'm also not asking anyone to risk homelessness, so I can keep pretending I am. I set the pages aside. The bottom line is this, I said, meeting Dad's eyes. I will not sign the house over. I will not put my name on loans I don't control. If you want my help, it will be in ways that do not jeopardize my future. What does that even mean? He asked. It means, I said, that if you want, I'll help you talk to the county about a payment plan for the taxes. I'll help you call a nonprofit credit counselor. I'll even maybe lend a smaller amount I can afford to never see again. But I will not sign away my inheritance for you or for anyone, no matter how much you try to make me feel like I'm selfish for keeping what Grandma wanted me to have. Ryan rolled his eyes. Wow, he said, all that degree, and you still don't understand family. I understand it perfectly. I said, I understand that in this family, family has always meant Nina fixes it. I caught myself. Old habit. Olivia fixes it. I corrected. And I'm done. Dad's shoulders slumped. So that's your final answer, he said. For today? Yes, I said. You can send whatever you want to my lawyer. If it makes sense and doesn't destroy what Grandma built, I'll consider it. But if you wanted a signature under duress, you wasted your Sunday. Silence hung in the room like heavy curtains. Finally, Aunt Miriam stood. Well, she said briskly, at least we know where we all stand. Yes, I said, we do. I stood too. I'll see myself out. I added. Dad's eyes looked wet. You'd really let me lose this place, he whispered. My throat tightened. No, I said softly. I'd let you take responsibility for whether you do. 5. When they came knocking. For 2 weeks after the meeting, the house was quiet. No one called. No one texted. I assumed they'd either found another solution or decided I was a lost cause. Then, on a rainy Saturday, there was a frantic pounding on my apartment door. Nina, open up. Dad's voice. I checked the peephole. Dad. Sandra behind him, coat half-zipped. Ryan lingered on the stairs, smoking. I opened the door, just a crack, chain still on. What's going on? I asked. They posted a notice. Dad said, shoving a crumpled paper through the gap. They're starting foreclosure. 30 days. I tried to set up a plan, but they said without a lump sum. They won't stop the process. I scanned the paper. It was real. Final. Scary. My heart clenched. This is what I was trying to prevent, I said. Months ago. We don't have time to argue, Sandra said, eyes pleading. Please. We'll do it your way. Talk to the lawyer. Just don't let him lose the house. I closed the door gently, unlatched the chain, then opened it. Come in, I said, gesturing. They stepped inside my small living room, suddenly looking out of place amid my thrift store furniture and tiny potted plant. This is cozy, Sandra said automatically. It's mine, I replied. That's the important part. Dad sank onto the couch. I talked to one of those counselors you mentioned. He said, they said what you did was smart, talking to them early once you're behind. I didn't. I kept thinking something would come through. A big job. A windfall. It didn't. Dad, I said gently, sitting across from him. Look at me. He did. For the first time, I said, I believe you're actually ready to hear what I've been saying. Not just about the house. About how you treat me. About what you expect. He swallowed. Go on, he said. So I did. I told him how Thanksgiving had felt. How Grandma's will had felt. How every you don't need as much had piled up like bricks. How every time he'd come to me, instead of the son who'd crashed Grandma's car and shrugged, he listened, sometimes with defensiveness, sometimes with shame. But he listened. I can't promise I'll undo decades of habit overnight, he said when I finished, but I can see now that I've been unfair. To you, to Mom's memory, to what she wanted for you. He rubbed his face. So what do? He asked. We call Ms. Patel together. I said, we see if there's any room to negotiate with the bank, given the clause in Grandma's will and your life estate. Sometimes they don't want the headache of kicking out an old man if they think the property might be tied up in court. We look at whether selling is actually better than being foreclosed on. We talk about you moving into a smaller place, if that's what it takes to stop this cycle. He winced at the word smaller, but he nodded. And my inheritance. I asked quietly, the house being legally mine someday, does that matter to you at all, except as leverage for loans? He looked at the floor. It does now, he said. It should have before. I was selfish. I told myself it was all one big family pot. That what helped me helped you. I see now that it wasn't my pot to raid. We made the calls. The bank, faced with the prospect of a complicated legal fight over property encumbered by a will and a life estate, was suddenly more interested in options. They agreed to a short sale instead of foreclosure if we could find a buyer. Ms. Patel connected us with a local couple looking for a farmhouse to renovate. We sold, not for as much as the house was sentimentally worth, enough to pay off the mortgage and leave a small surplus. Legally, that surplus belonged mostly to me. Grandma's will saw to that. I could have demanded every cent, waived the paperwork, pointed to decades of imbalance. Instead, I sat at the table with Ms. Patel and Dad and quietly said, split it 3 ways. Me, Dad, and a fund for Grandma's memory at the library. Ryan doesn't get a cash cut of this sale. He's already had enough from this place. Dad blinked. Are you sure? He asked. Yes, I said, because this isn't about punishing you. It's about ending the story where I lose no matter what. He nodded, eyes suspiciously shiny. Thank you, he said. He moved into a modest apartment across town. Smaller, easier to heat, less yard to worry about. He grumbled about it at first, then admitted one day on the phone, I sleep better not looking at that roof, and wondering which leak I'm going to ignore next. Ryan drifted. He was furious when he realized there was nothing left for him to tap. He didn't speak to me for a while. I missed him. Then I remembered that I'd spent most of my life missing a version of him that didn't exist. Sandra sent me holiday cards. Sometimes a text with a photo of Dad on his balcony with a potted plant, grinning. Look, she'd write, he's learning to live within his means. I smiled, because I was learning to live within mine too. 9. The inheritance is mine, and so am I. My dad tricked me into a family meeting to pressure me into handing over my inheritance. In a way, I'm glad he did, because without that blatant attempt, I might have kept letting my boundaries erode quietly. I might have said, fine, just this once, and watched my grandmother's house turn into yet another cautionary tale about how you can't pour stability into a hole someone else keeps digging. Instead, the trap made everything visible. It forced people to say out loud what they'd been acting on for years. That my care was infinite, that my good head for money meant my money was communal, that their mistakes were my obligations and my hard-won security was negotiable. Saying no didn't just protect the house. It protected something else, my right to choose how my story plays out. I still help my father. I bring him groceries sometimes. I drive him to the doctor. I listen when he complains about getting older. But I don't give him my rent money. I don't give him my future. I don't give him my signature on lines he hasn't earned. If you've got a dad, mom, or any relative who phrases your inheritance as something you owe them instead of something a previous generation chose to give you, remember this. Wills are written for a reason. So are budgets. So are boundaries. You can sit at a family table, eat the chicken, laugh at the old stories, and still slide the pen back across the contract and say, without guilt, no, the inheritance is mine. And so, am I